Fallacy, burden of proof. Includes, appeal to ignorance, ad ignorantiam. Description of burden of proof. Burden of proof is a fallacy in which the burden of proof is placed on the wrong side. Another version occurs when a lack of evidence for side A is taken to be evidence for side B in cases in which the burden of proof actually rests on side B. A common name for this is an appeal to ignorance. This sort of reasoning typically has the following form. Claim X is presented by side A and the burden of proof actually rests on side B. Side B claims that X is false because there is no proof for X. In many situations, one side has the burden of proof resting on it. This side is obligated to provide evidence for its position. The claim of the other side, the one that does not bear the burden of proof, is assumed to be true unless proven otherwise. The difficulty in such cases is determining which side, if any, the burden of proof rests on. In many cases, settling this issue can be a matter of significant debate. In some cases the burden of proof is set by the situation. For example, in American law a person is assumed to be innocent until proven guilty, hence the burden of proof is on the prosecution. As another example, in debate the burden of proof is placed on the affirmative team. As a final example, in most cases the burden of proof rests on those who claim something exists, such as Bigfoot, psychic powers, universals, and sense data. Examples of burden of proof. Bill, I think that we should invest more money in expanding the interstate system. Jill, I think that would be a bad idea, considering the state of the Treasury. Bill, how can anyone be against highway improvements? Bill, I think that some people have psychic powers. Jill, what is your proof? Bill, no one has been able to prove that people do not have psychic powers. You cannot prove that God does not exist, so he does. Fallacy, circumstantial ad hominem. Description of circumstantial ad hominem. A circumstantial ad hominem is a fallacy in which one attempts to attack a claim by asserting that the person making the claim is making it simply out of self-interest. In some cases, this fallacy involves substituting an attack on a person's circumstances, such as the person's religion, political affiliation, ethnic background, etc. The fallacy has the following forms. Person A makes claim X. Person B asserts that A makes claim X because it is in A's interest to claim X. Therefore claim X is false. Person A makes claim X. Person B makes an attack on A's circumstances. Therefore X is false. A circumstantial ad hominem is a fallacy because a person's interests and circumstances have no bearing on the truth or falsity of the claim being made, while a person's interests will provide them with motives to support certain claims. The claims stand or fall on their own. It is also the case that a person's circumstances, religion, political affiliation, etc., do not affect the truth or falsity of the claim. This is made quite clear by the following example. Bill claims that 1 + 1 = 2. But he is a Republican, so his claim is false. There are times when it is prudent to suspicious of a person's claims, such as when it is evident that the claims are being biased by the person's interests. For example, if a tobacco company representative claims that tobacco does not cause cancer, it would be prudent to not simply accept the claim. This is because the person has a motivation to make the claim, whether it is true or not. However, the mere fact that the person has a motivation to make the claim does not make it false. For example, suppose a parent tells her son that sticking a fork in a light socket would be dangerous. Simply because she has a motivation to say this obviously does not make her claim false. Examples of circumstantial ad hominem. She asserts that we need more military spending, but that is false, since she is only saying it because she is a Republican. I think that we should reject what Father Jones has to say about the ethical issues of abortion because he is a Catholic priest. After all, Father Jones is required to hold such views. Of course, the senator from Maine opposes a reduction in naval spending. After all, Bath Iron Works, which produces warships, is in Maine. Bill claims that tax breaks for corporations increases development. Of course, Bill is the CEO of a fallacy. Composition. Description of composition. The fallacy of composition is committed when a conclusion is drawn about a whole based on the features of its constituents when, in fact, no justification provided for the inference. There are actually two types of this fallacy, both of which are known by the same name, because of the high degree of similarity. The first type of fallacy of composition arises when a person reasons from the characteristics of individual members of a class or group to a conclusion regarding the characteristics of the entire class or group, taken as a whole. More formally, the reasoning would look something like this. Individual F things have characteristics A, B, C, etc. Therefore, the whole class of F things has characteristics A, B, C, etc. This line of reasoning is fallacious because the mere fact that individuals have certain characteristics does not, in itself, guarantee that the class, taken as a whole, has those characteristics. It is important to note that drawing an inference about the characteristics of a class based on the characteristics of its individual members is not always fallacious. In some cases, sufficient justification can be provided to warrant the conclusion. For example, it is true that an individual rich person has more wealth than an individual poor person. In some nations, such as the US, it is true that the class of wealthy people has more wealth as a whole than does the class of poor people. In this case, the evidence used would warrant the inference and the fallacy of composition would not be committed. The second type of fallacy of composition is committed when it is concluded that what is true of the parts of a whole must be true of the whole without there being adequate justification for the claim. More formally, the line of reasoning would be as follows. The parts of the whole X have characteristics A, B, C, etc. Therefore the whole X must have characteristics A, B, C. That this sort of reasoning is fallacious because it cannot be inferred that simply because the parts of a complex whole have, or lack, certain properties that the whole that they are parts of has those properties. This is especially clear in math. The numbers 1 and 3 are both odd. 1 and 3 are parts of 4. Therefore, the number 4 is odd. It must be noted that reasoning from the properties of the parts to the properties of the whole is not always fallacious. If there is justification for the inference from parts to whole, then the reasoning is not fallacious. For example, if every part of the human body is made of matter, then it would not be an error in reasoning to conclude that the whole human body is made of matter. Similarly, if every part of a structure is made of brick, there is no fallacy committed when one concludes that the whole structure is made of brick. Examples of composition. A main battle tank uses more fuel than a car. Therefore, the main battle tanks use up more of the available fuel in the world than do all the cars. A tiger eats more food than a human being. Therefore, tigers, as a group, eat more food than do all the humans on the earth. Atoms are colorless. Cats are made of atoms, so cats are colorless. Every player on the team is a superstar and a great player, so the team is a great team. This is fallacious since the superstars might not be able to play together very well and hence they could be a lousy team. Each part of the show, from the special effects to the acting, is a masterpiece. So, the whole show is a masterpiece. This is fallacious since a show could have great acting, great special effects and such, yet still fail to come together. To make a masterpiece. Come on, you like beef, potatoes, and green beans, so you will like this beef, potato, and green bean casserole. This is fallacious for the same reason that the following is fallacious: you like eggs, ice cream, pizza, cake, fish, jello, chicken, taco sauce, soda, oranges, milk, egg rolls, and yogurt, so you must like this yummy dish made out of all of them. Sodium and chloride are both dangerous to humans. Therefore any combination of sodium and chloride will be dangerous to humans. Fallacy: